Deuteronomy 31:8, the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Sorry. And don't be afraid and do not be discouraged. And there were so many times I just had to keep telling myself, that he was with me, because I really felt alone. So, my journey, I'll call it a journey, still an ongoing journey, started last July 14th, and I was on my way to work. And a lot of what I'm going to tell you I don't remember is what I've been told, because I don't remember a lot of the stuff that happened from the accident. And I was on my way to work, and I was involved in a head-on collision with a work truck. And a lady came up to the car. She thought I was already dead because of the impact. And when I guess I had asked her to call my husband, so she was scared. And she tried to make some calls, and Peggy, I work with Peggy, as you know, and she was worried because I was late to work, and I'm not late to work. So luckily she called, and that kind of transpired, got the phone calls going to Charles and everyone. And it took them 20 minutes to use the jaws of life to cut me out of the car. And then they transported me by ambulance across. It happened on La Sierra in Cajalco, on the dam. So they transferred me from across the dam to the helicopter, and then they airlifted me to Riverside County Hospital. And then I just recently found out the term of what they call what I had. The seatbelt had severed, one of the things had severed my intestines in 3 places in my stomach. They had to reattach it. I guess the paramedics call that internal decapitation. And kind of brutal, I know. Anyway, so I got to the hospital, and they did a CT scan, and that's when they found out that I was bleeding, and my ankle was detached and broke my leg a few places. And Charles and Ashley got there right when they were taking me to the OR. And they said it would take a couple hours, but I was in there for over 5.5. And then I got out of there, and from what I'm told, my stomach was open. They had to let me heal from the inside out. I was on life support for a couple days, and after that, I started to stabilize. They took me back in, and that's when they did the surgery on my ankle. They put the plate, and I think I had like 10 screws in there. Still don't remember much. I remember a couple people visiting me, but I was on a lot of medicine. Those are stories in and of itself. God really worked fast, because from an accident that I wasn't expected to live through, that was on the 14th, and I was discharged from the hospital on the 22nd of that same month. And then I went to rehab. I was very blessed to go to a very nice facility, very caring, and really liked the people. And I was there for a few weeks, went back to the doctors, and they took off the soft cast of my ankle, and saw that it had ruptured, and now I have a blister. And so they're going to put the hard cast on, but they're not going to give me any antibiotics or anything for my blister or the infection. They said, oh, it'll be okay. So they said, just have the nurse at the facility change it after a week. So I go back, and that was after my ride from, I think Satan was in control of that ride from the van taking me there. But anyway, I get back, and the ankle continued to get worse, and I had to go back for a checkup. And now instead of just a blister, it's really infected, and now I have 2 big pus pockets, and they say we now need to do surgery. so we need you to come back tomorrow, and they're going to do surgery. And I was still healing because my stomach, I had what's called a wound vac, and it's so a hole is left open, and then it's packed, and you're hooked up to a machine that is sucking the stuff out. Sorry if I gross anybody up. But it's still.
I do have pictures if you need.
So I go back the next day to the hospital. They do surgery, and then I find out that I have MRSA. So now they put me, and then I have another one back. Now I got rid of the one on my stomach, and now I have one on my ankle. And they put me. They put me in isolation because MRSA is contagious, and so you have to gown up and glove up before you come into the room. And I was in there for about a week and a half, I think, is how long I was in there. And then they put you on, when you have MRSA, they put you on really strong antibiotics. And there's like one that to kill it, that's the only thing that's going to get rid of it. So they put me on that. And then I have to go back to rehab. I get to go back after that. But I didn't get to go back to the same nice one that I liked. I had to go to a different one because of being in isolation. But so while I'm there, I start getting a fever, and I can't get rid of it. And the doctors, we told the doctors, and they said, "Oh, you probably just caught something from the facility, and you're okay." And so I'm there, and then one night, I'm not sure how long after the surgery, I start breaking out in a rash, and they said it was a heat rash, but it wasn't. And my fever that night got up to 103.5, and so then they called the ambulance and transferred me back to the hospital. This time I went to Riverside Community, and found out that I was having an allergic reaction to the medicine. So there's two medicines that they're not sure which one is that I could be allergic to. But so now I'm back in the hospital again, and they have to wean me off the medicines, and then they have to put me on other medicines. But what happened was, while I'm in there, I broke out a rash head to toe, front and back. They put you on steroids to help with the pain and the swelling and all of that. And then they kind of wean you off. The steroids was strong enough to start deteriorating my bones. So they don't want to keep you on very long. So after that, I went and got back to rehab. Got to go back to my first one. And it's kind of funny, people that say, "Oh, welcome back." What do you say? Thanks. But they're just so nice, and I really appreciate all of them that were there. But I was there for a couple more weeks. Now we're into the end of September, and my mom and dad were, last time I'd seen them, and my sister Michelle, many of you know them, she lives in Kansas, was from the first accident, from when they first saw me. And so we were going to have plans to go to Carlsbad for timeshare, and just to kind of watch over me so I wouldn't be left alone, and to heal. And this was, so far this has been the easy part now that I look back, because I got home, and I was home for, I think, 4 days, 3 nights. And just wasn't feeling right. And so before we left for Carlsbad, Charles said, "I think I need to go in and be checked." And I've been feeling sick, and things weren't working right. And so by the time I left my house, which is basically from here, because we're just on the other side of the freeway, to the hospital, which is 20 minutes away, I had gone into septic shock, and my body was shutting down. My heart rate was sky high, and my blood pressure had dropped really, really low. I can remember having a lot of doctors just surrounding me. I was dehydrated, so they just started pumping in they did 5 bags of fluid just to try and get me. But when your body shuts down, it doesn't get rid of the fluids, and you just kind of retain them. And then what we found out was that that's when I got the C. diff. So the antibiotics that we had to fight the MRSA came back and attacked my body and started shutting everything down, my colon and everything. Long story, I was in the hospital for a month and a half.
That was a real hard one for her. Her chances of surviving that were pretty slim. It had gone bad. And the doctors were stalling for quite a while. They didn't know what to do. They were just throwing everything they could think of at her to try to help. But I think it was God that helped.
The doctor told me I'm one of 3% that have survived having C. diff. I'm one of 1% that have survived having C. diff and septic shock the way I had it. I was very blessed with nurses in there that there's a lot of them that have faith. And when you're in there, I couldn't move. I was so swollen. The only thing I could move was my arms and my head. I could wiggle my toes. That's the only thing I could move. I had no control over anything of myself. I couldn't do anything. It puts you in a very, humbling isn't even, as an adult, you're supposed to be able to take care of yourself. And nights were the hardest. I just would keep saying that verse over and over again. You haven't loved me. You haven't loved me. And there were so many times, and I knew that I felt like I was dying. I could feel it. And it's so hard because you want to be brave for your family. How you doing? Hey, I'm doing okay, I'm doing okay. But you know you don't feel like that, and inside you're dying. And then you have the doctors that kind of tell you that too, but I remember one day Charles was visiting, Tammy put on this song, and I tagged it on Facebook. And God will use little things you never know when He's going to use, just to kind of, to let you know that He's still there, and that He hasn't left you. And I just started crying. I cry a lot now, I'm sorry. And it was just seeing it. And then He brought nurses in when I would be really struggling. And at night, and the body was just not doing well. And I remember the nurse, the Tina lady, said, "It's okay, Mamas. It's okay, Mamas. Keep having faith. Just keep having that faith. You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it. Just keep having that faith." And it's hard. It's hard when you feel like that, to keep having that faith. And it's hard for when you don't want to anymore. You just want it to stop. I just wanted the pain to go away. I just wanted everything to go away.
The thing that Tammy posted was a song, and I played it for her.
brought me a lot of nurses in that hospital and gave me a lot of opportunities to share. Because it was like overnight that I started getting better. It wasn't a slow thing. It was just like overnight he gave me a sign. I could see that I had an ankle. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm gonna get better. And I took a picture of it and sent it to my family. And like, look, you know, it's like it was the first glimmer of hope that we've ever had that I was gonna get better. And I had, the nurses would come in and I always made sure that I always gave, they would say, you look better, or your test came back better. And I said, it's because of God. It's because of the prayers. I always made sure I gave him credit every single time. I always wanted to make sure that people knew that it was because of him, because the doctors were stumped. It wasn't because of them, it was because of God and what he was doing. And it was kind of weird when I would share with the family. You know, people would come in and they would just start sharing with me some of their lives and stories and things that were going on. And I would listen and like, well, if you're going to open it up, okay, here it goes. So then I would share and they would ask me what I think and I would be honest. And I got to share that with several of them. You know, I had a PT, a physical therapist, and he kind of shared some things. And I was able to share stuff with him about, you know, you need to get your family back in church. You're the pastor of your family. You're supposed to be leading them. And always directed them to God. So he gave me the opportunities to share. We always have opportunities. And I made it out of there. A month and a half, and I made it out. And then I got back to my rehab, the good one that I liked. And again, I got, welcome back. Why are you here? Thanks. And but I was given more chances to share again with them. And they even, and I had some that would come to me and say, you're a miracle, you know, you're a miracle, that they would get to see it. So I was in there for a few weeks, got home, made it a week home, and back I went again. This time it was for the gallbladder. When you've been back, I just kept telling Charles, I can't do this again. I can't. And I didn't want to. I'd rather, in my head, I'd rather just end it now because I can't go through that again. But luckily, it was just gallbladder. But, you know, can't have that smoothly either. So, had the gallbladder surgery, and the colon stopped working just because I was still not healed on the inside. And so I was there for a couple weeks. And then I got to come home. And I know I'm sitting here in front of you, you know, as Bill gave messages the last few weeks about faith and miracles, and you're looking at one, and you help pray for one. So you have to know, you use my story that if someone says God doesn't do miracles, but he does, because you all know it, you've seen it, you can testify to it. And I'm a miracle just because of all of you, and people all over this country are praying for me. It's easy to have faith when things are going well. Or, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I have faith. But I think we forget about why we're doing so well. And then our faith deepens when we go through a struggle. It's like, who do we always turn to? Lord, I need you. Lord, I need you. But when it gets really, really dark, and then it tests your faith. And I can remember crying out so many times, like, you say you're here with me, but I feel deserted. But you say you're with me, please show me you're with me. You know, I'm still healing. They say it'll take about a year for my stomach and everything to heal. But I'm continuing, I can feel that I'm getting stronger. God's still working. And I'm here, and only the work that only God could have done, only God could have brought me here today, to be able to sit here and to be able to come back and talk and give praises for Him. And I know He has something planned for me. I don't know what yet, but I'm open and willing to do it. And I have to make sure that I can tell myself, okay, I'm yours. You know, what do you want me to do? As I was sitting, I was one day just kind of thinking and reflecting, and like, okay, God, and thoughts just started coming through my mind, and it's like I've been given another chance at life. And some of the things that came to that were in my head, I started to write down. But you can use them too. You said, what am I going to do with it? You've seen a miracle. What are you going to do with it? How am I going to change? What do I need to change? What does God want me to do? And what does God have in store for me? Have you ever thought that, you know, sometimes we think, oh, if I wish I could go back and change, if I could do this over again. I can't change or do things over, but I can do things differently from now, from forward. I can't go back in time and change it, but I can change my future of how I behave, how I react. You know, I always thought I was a pretty good Christian. And then, you know, I'm like, you know, I read the Bible, I pray, I share at work, and then God gets you in a place where you can't move and you can't go. And I can remember just asking Him, show me, what do I need to change? What am I doing? You know, and just having the quiet time with Him. What do I need to do to be different? What do I need to do to be more like You? I want people to see Him in me, not me. I want to look at things, and it was so hard to look at things the way God sees it, to look at people the way God sees them. Even the ones that hurt us and do us wrong, we need to still look at them in the way that God sees them. And that's something for me. I need to stand up, make sure do we always stand up for what we believe in? Or do we get quiet and tower down and hide and not speak up because we're afraid of what someone might think? And do I stand up for what I believe in, or do I stand up for what God believes? And the only way we know what God believes is by reading the Bible and by talking with Him. It's not about us, but it's about Him. And in the world today, I mean, it's gotten so crazy. And people need to stop. It's all about them and not about God. You know, I don't want to go by and just do life day by day. You know, just sit by and take it, but I want it to mean something. I want to do it. I want it to, the way God intended my life and day to be. So in the mornings I have to ask Him, Lord, what do you want me to do today? What do you have in store for me today? What am I willing to put up with in life? And what or how do I want to live differently? You know, and that's just with everything. With work, home, just being out. It's our choice. That's the one thing God's given us, is we have the choice to choose. how will we choose? What will we choose? Will we choose him or will we choose us? I know I need to take the time to read my Bible more, because how will I know him if I'm not reading it? How will I know what he wants me to do? Or how am I going to share if I don't know what it says? And I won't know what it says unless I'm taking that time to read it. And who will I put first? I like what I said before. How am I going to use this miracle that I've been given? And I hope and pray that I use it the way that God wants me to. That I pray that it'll glorify him. That I'll be an example of him, an example of his goodness, of his mercy, everything that he gave me to be able to sit here in front of you. Because I know that I'm only here because God performed a miracle on me. And I'm grateful, and I don't want to let him down or the people who have prayed for me. I'm sharing my story because I want everyone to believe that God still does miracles. I want people to know about his abilities. There's no limit to his ability. He can do anything. He can take people from the dead and rise them up again. And now I think I'm learning he's teaching me patience. Because I want to be better already. I want to be able to walk normal. I want to be normal. I want to feel normal. I want to be able to do what you guys can do. You can just get up and walk. You can go to work. You can just get in the car and do what you want to do. Don't take that for granted, because you never know when it can be taken away. Which leads me to memories. My memories, I don't have a lot of memories of the accident. My last memory was the week before. And I think, what do we want to, so I need to think of, before you leave, what kind of memories do you want your spouse to have before you're leaving for work? Or your children, do they know that you love them? But not just hear it. Do they feel it? I think there's a difference between knowing and feeling love. We can just speak the words, I love you, I care about you. But do we demonstrate it? Are our actions following what we're saying? So once again, I thank you for all your prayers and your continued prayers.